All right. Krishna, 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 hey. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh God. Hare Krishna. Well, I was in the store the other day, and one of the salespeople, like they usually do when they see someone in one of the aisles where their products are, they said, "Can I help you with something?" And I said, "Only God can help me." And he started to laugh, and he walked away. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And I was thinking, there's the little illustration of the mood in Vrindavan of the gopis, the cowherd girls. They love Krishna. Oh, they just love him. They just love Krishna. They just love Krishna. And so sometimes he's not visible. He's off with the cowherd boys in the pasture, or at home with Mother Yasoda and Nanda getting a bath, different things. But they can't stop thinking about Krishna. And so sometimes when they're wandering around trying to find Krishna, Lord Vishnu appears. His four-armed form. It's Krishna, but in his four-armed form. The maintainer, the shelter of all living entities. There's majesty and awe connected with the personality of Godhead when he manifests his Vishnu form. The demigods are offering prayers. Goddess Lakshmi is massaging his feet. He's manifesting all the universes. He's awesome. Awe and reverence. So the gopis, they have another kind of relationship with the personality of Godhead. It's more friends and family, loving, playful, fun kind of pleasure kind of relationship, personal. So when Krishna manifests his Vishnu form, like sometimes he manifests his different aspects. To Mother Yasoda, she's holding him, breastfeeding him, a little baby, and she's just loving her little son. He's so cute, and the little teeth are coming in, and oh, is her baby. And then he manifests the universal form, and she's like, she's going crazy. But so Krishna does that sometimes. But the Vrindavan mood is one of not thinking of Krishna like that at all. But every now and then it's manifest, but it doesn't think like that. They don't have that kind of a relationship with the personality of Godhead. So when Vishnu appears before the cowherd girls, who doesn't love Krishna? He's the most of his pastimes took place when he was quite young, 6, 7, 8 years old. So we're not talking about, X-rated things. We're talking about beautiful, innocent childhood, loving interactions. And young, actually, very young. So when Vishnu appears, he manifests his Vishnu form, awe and reverence. They offer their respects. They're respectful. They acknowledge Vishnu, Narayan. They acknowledge. But then They don't stay there. They're not like overcome and mesmerized. They continue on. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? The one who's stolen our heart. He's stolen our heart. Where is he? We have to find Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So this is kind of this dynamic going on all the time. The Vishnu aspect and the Vrindavan aspect. They're always kind of playing back and forth. Because everything is there in Krishna. The Narayan, awesome form, the universal form, everything's there in Krishna. So when he appears, like in this most recent appearance, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is in the Vrindavan mood, but there's something that needs to be done also. So within that, he's appearing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of Radha, the cowherd girl, and the cowherd girls, that pastime in separation. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? But he also manifests his Narayan and Vishnu forms, his on-reverence forms, because it's all there in Krishna. It's all there in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's always this kind of dynamic going back and forth. I see it in Prabhupada's mantra. Prabhupada is a resident of Vrindavan. And he came on a mission. His mission has many aspects to it. To reestablish religious principles. And as I was hearing in a discussion last night, cultivate the mode of goodness. And it's all related to the Vishnu form. The four-armed maintainer of religion. But the Vrindavan aspect is different. Like in Prabhupada's mantra, it's Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. He's taken shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. He's very dear to Lord Krishna. So in that mantra, why is Vishnu mentioned and Krishna separately? Why are they mentioned separately? Why is it Nama Om Vishnu Padaya? And the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is a manifestation of Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. But then why is it Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, who's very dear to Lord Krishna, which indicates the Vrindavan mood? Is both there. Both there. Everything's there. So one devotee the other day was getting angry with me. But I could see the struggle. I could see the struggle that they were having internally between Nama Om Vishnu Padaya and Krishna Prastaya. I could see the struggle within them. And they were feeling some guilt or shame for not being more Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, taking up that more. But within their heart, I could see they were irresistibly attracted to Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Prabhupada. So they were angry with me because I offer respects to Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, that mood, that Narayan Lakshmi. But personally, I can't absorb in that enough. There's too much going on, too much energy floating around that is not engaged. in simply worshipping Narayan, Vishnu, Lakshmi, Narayan, Vishnu. I have too much energy left over. But that energy does get fully absorbed in Krishna Prasaya. That's the form that fully pulls me in as a soul. So they were getting angry with me that they thought like I was jumping over Prabhupada. You can't jump over the spiritual master. They were getting angry. Devotees get angry at me. You don't know how to act with devotees. You're jumping over the spiritual master. You know. I'm not at all. Not at all. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm grateful and respectful of those that can cultivate the mode of goodness and self-control, and for the sake of the preaching mission to reestablish religious principles, are able to do that and to preach and act on that platform. But I can't. I become fully absorbed in the Vrindavan mood when I hear the pastimes of Krishna. When I think of Krishna, I think of Krishna. I don't think of Lakshmi Narayan or Vishnu, although they're all there in Krishna. That's what absorbs me. And you can, there's no doubt in my mind when that happens. There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. Just like Prabhupada said, when a person is hungry and they receive food, no one has to tell them they're getting something to eat. They know. They can feel the nourishment. They can feel the life-giving. They can taste and feel, so no one has to say, "Oh." They know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. The first indication I got of that, way back when, that there's a dynamic there. It's not all one. That Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, and then there's Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. In Prabhupada, in his preaching, his personality. The very first, when I was a student in the temple, I could see there was a difference in mood. We even had, like in Los Angeles, in the early 70s, we even had 2 different ashrams for the ladies, because it was a big temple. There were a lot of devotees living and serving in the temple at the time as students. And there were 2 different ashrams. One was for the temple devotees, and they served in the temple, and they took prasadam together, and like that. And then there was the Sankirtan devotees, the kind of rough and ready bouncy crowd who would go out into the streets and run up to people with the good news, book distribution crowd. And they had an ashram, and they took prasadam together. it was according to their service, but actually it was according to the mood of their service. So I could see, wow, why is there this difference, Why isn't everybody, hey, Ananga, Hare Krishna. So there was this dynamic there of Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, the religious principles, Lakshmi Narayan, because the deity in the temple is worshipped in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. And then there was Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya, who's very dear to Lord Krishna. It's not all black and white, and it's a spectrum, there's mixes. But I became really aware of that there was such a difference in the moods of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So you can go to Vrindavan. Vrindavan, there's a place on this planet, Vrindavan, where Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, actually appeared. Hard for us to visualize that in our materially encapsulated consciousness, but Krishna actually appeared there. His associates, many extraordinary displays of spiritual energy took place there 5,000 years ago, and you can go. Well, just buying a ticket really isn't going to Vrindavan, but you can buy a ticket and go to Vrindavan. What you'll see there and what you'll experience, that's another thing. But there's a place on this planet, very wonderful place, Vrindavan. But actually, Vrindavan is a consciousness. Because if somebody just buys a ticket and goes to Vrindavan, they might just see, some dusty dirt roads and very simple village people that don't look like they have much material opulence and kind of hot. Probably get dysentery because they're not used to the microbes that live there. They're very strong. And who knows, what they'll see. It was a while since I've been in Vrindavan. It's probably developed now with condominiums and tennis courts, but when I went, it was dusty roads and open drainage alongside the buildings, and sometimes there were pigs and piglets running around in the open sewage drainage ditches. But you don't know what you'll see there, because it's a consciousness. And like a devotee, like with Prabhupada, wherever he went was Vrindavan, because it's the consciousness, Vrindavan consciousness. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So I could see in that devotee he was struggling with the two aspects of the Lord, and saw a lot of confusion of what to do to actually serve. And he was feeling very guilty that he wasn't serving Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Lakshmi Narayan, and the preaching mission, but because his heart was so absorbed in Krishna Prastaya, which is, so he was really having this huge conflict, and he got angry at me, that I was jumping over Prabhupada. So I was trying to discuss some of these things and didn't want to hear it. Couldn't discuss. And if I was wrong and he was right, then why not discuss and help me if I'm so far out there and so far wrong in what I'm experiencing in ecstasy most of the time? Why don't you help me? But instead he just kind of like, no, I can't talk with you anymore. Mataji. Well, best wishes, dear son. Best wishes, dear son. May you be successful. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Krishna. It's just that once you get a taste for this more like spontaneous, emotional involvement with the personality of Godhead, it's very, it's like your heart just becomes like butter, like fluid. It's all the hardness. It's melted. Your heart melts. It's like you don't have hardness of heart. Even somebody starts yelling at you or something, it's like it's like you become a transcendental idiot or something. Krishna. It's like you don't actually hear what they're saying, you just hear their vibration, and it's an angry vibration, and it's like, wow, that person's really angry. What was that pastime? Hare Krishna. Oh, Banasura. When Aniruddha and Usha were engaged in playful intimacy with each other, and her father came in, Banasura. At first he thought, wow, she's got good taste. Yeah, he's all right. But the circumstances are wrong. So, circumstances are wrong. Shouldn't be doing this. Wasn't arranged properly, and became very angry. It's obviously because his power and authority over his daughter had been circumvented, and he became very angry. Challenged. So when they saw him, they saw, oh, he's very angry. What they saw was his mood. Oh, he's angry. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So sometimes when, devotees, they say things to me, can't jump over Prabhupada. It's like, oh, he's very angry. Hare Krishna, I'm not jumping over anyone. I'm following my spiritual master. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Anyway, Hare Krishna. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. Yell at me or something. You go on yelling, I don't hear you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right, so, oh Krishna, oh Krishna. Oh, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Oh, Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane. Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharane, Nirvishesha. Sunyavadi, Paskachadi Satarani. Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Yeah, Chaitanya Leela is advanced study, postgraduate study, and that's where you get the Krishna Prastaya comes in really strong. Vishnu, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, you've got Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they're heavy on Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Ishopanishad, I mean, Krishna Prastaya is in there, but they're heavy on Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. But when you get to Chaitanya Charitamrita, postgraduate study, you've got Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. So, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya is in there, but it's heavy on Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. So, and it's interesting, Nectar Devotion, you've got the first part, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, where how to practice, when to fast, what to do, what to wear in front of the deities, where to live, the how-to part, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. And then in the second part, you've got Krishna Prastaya. All the different moods and ecstasies, they're all visible. Okay, hear about that, man. It's interesting that there's these aspects. They're not necessarily cancel each other out. In other words, someone can be practicing and also be experiencing. But someone can be experiencing and not necessarily practicing, because that's there too. So they don't necessarily cancel each other out. It's what is favorable for serving Krishna. And it's very unique and individual. Under the guidance of Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamani. Hare Krishna. So this is the killing of Kaṁsa. Kaṁsa definitely wanted to stop Vrindavan Krishna. He was not at all interested in Vrindavan Krishna. He was afraid of Vrindavan Krishna. He was afraid of Vishnu. So in the wrestling arena, Krishna and Balaram have just managed to kill Chanura, Mastika. There were a bunch of other wrestlers too, these big like WWE muscle-bound monsters. He's managed to kill them. So when that happened, while drums beat and they talked of the victory, the leg bells on the feet of Krishna and Balaram tinkled. All people gathered there began to clap in great ecstasy. No one could estimate the bounds of their pleasure. The brahmanas present began to praise Krishna and Balaram ecstatically. Only Kaṁsa was morose. He neither clapped nor offered benediction to Krishna. Kaṁsa resented the drums beating for Krishna's victory, and he was very sorry that the wrestlers had been killed and had fled. The ones that were killed fled the assembly. He therefore immediately ordered the drum playing to stop. He began to address his friends as follows. I order that these two sons of Vasudeva be immediately driven out of Mathura. The cowherd boys who have come with them should be plundered and all their riches taken away. Nanda Maharaj should immediately be arrested and killed for his cunning behavior, and the rascal Vasudeva should be killed without delay. Also, my father, Ugrasena, who has always supported my enemies against my will, should be killed. Wow. Wow. When Kamsa spoke in this way, Lord Krishna became very angry with him, and within a second, he jumped over the high guards of King Kamsa. Kamsa was prepared for Krishna's attack, for he knew from the beginning that he was to be the cause of his death. He immediately unsheathed his sword and prepared to answer the challenge of Krishna with sword and shield. As Kamsa wielded his sword up and down, hither and thither, Lord Krishna, the supreme, powerful Lord, caught hold of him with great force. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of the complete creation, and from whose lotus navel the whole creation is manifested, immediately knocked the crown from the head of Kamsa and grabbed his long hair in his hand. He then dragged Kamsa from his seat to the wrestling dais and threw him down. Then Krishna at once straddled his chest and began to strike him over and over, simply by the strokes of his fist. Kamsa lost his vital force. Whoa, what a way to meet Krishna! What a way to meet Krishna! Oh my goodness. Wow. In order to assure his parents that Kamsa was dead, Krishna dragged him just as a lion drags an elephant after killing it. On sight of this, there was a great roaring sound from all sides, as some spectators expressed their jubilation and others cried in lamentation. From the day Kamsa heard that he would be killed by the eighth son of Devaki, he was always thinking of Krishna, 24 hours a day, without any stoppage, while he was eating, while he was walking, while he was breathing, and naturally he got the blessing of liberation. In Bhagavad Gita it's stated, Sada tad bhava bhavita. A person gets his next life according to the thoughts of which he is always absorbed. Kamsa was thinking of Krishna with his wheel, which means Narayan, who holds a wheel, conch shell, lotus flower, and club. Kamsa was thinking of Krishna. He was thinking of Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna, that Krishna, form of Krishna, the Narayan form, the Vishnu form. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Now when Krishna entered that assembly, all the people assembled there saw him differently. Some saw him as just an ordinary person. Some saw him as, like the young ladies, they saw him as the most attractive young man. He was so attractive. And some saw him as their son. Others saw him as a great, as the super soul. So, but it's Krishna, come from Vrindavan. He's actually left Vrindavan. So, that form of Krishna is manifest in Vrindavan. So now the form of Krishna that's here has this Narayan aspect. According to the opinion of authorities, Kamsa attained Swarupya Mukti after death. That is to say, he attained the same form as Narayan, Vishnu. On the Vaikuntha planets, all the inhabitants have the same bodily features as Narayan. After his death, Kamsa attained liberation and was promoted to Vaikuntha Loka. From this instance, we can understand that even a person who thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an enemy gets liberation and a place in a Vaikuntha planet. So what to speak of the pure devotees who are always absorbed in favorable thoughts of Krishna? Even an enemy who was killed by Krishna gets liberation and is placed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti. So Kamsa he was liberated but he got a Vishnu form and a place in the Vaikuntha planets. But some enemies who are killed by Krishna, they get liberation also, but it's the impersonal liberation. They get to hang out in the spiritual atmosphere with nothing to do, just existing there. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all good, anyone thinking of him either as enemy or as friend gets liberation. There's different types of liberation. But the liberation of the devotee and the liberation of the enemy are not the same. The enemy generally gets the liberation of Sayuja, and sometimes he gets Sarupya. So the Sayuja, since Prabhupada's talking about liberation into the impersonal atmosphere, that Sayuja, and sometimes he gets Sarupya, a Vishnu form, and can enter into the Vaikuntha planets. That's liberation. Krishna had 8 brothers, headed by Kanka. All of them were younger than he, and when they learned that their elder brother had been killed, they combined together and rushed toward Krishna in great anger to kill him. So he had 8 brothers, Kaṁsa did. Kaṁsa and his 8 brothers were all Krishna's maternal uncles. They were all brothers of Krishna's mother Devaki. When Krishna killed Kaṁsa, he killed his maternal uncle, which is against the regulation of Vedic injunction. Although Krishna is independent of all Vedic injunction, he violates the Vedic injunction only in inevitable cases. Kaṁsa could not be killed by anyone but Krishna. Therefore, Krishna was obliged to kill him. As far as Kamsa's 8 brothers were concerned, Balaram took charge of killing them. Balaram's mother, Rohini, although the wife of Vasudeva, was not the sister of Kaṁsa. Therefore, Balaram took charge of killing all of Kamsa's 8 brothers. He immediately took up an available weapon, most probably the elephant's tusk which he carried, and killed the 8 brothers one after another, just as a lion kills a flock of deer. Krishna and Balaram thus verified the statement that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears to give protection to the pious and to kill the impious demons who are always enemies of the demigods. The demigods from the higher planetary systems began to shower flowers, congratulating Krishna and Balaram. Among the they're always showering flowers. Flower airplanes, showering flowers. Hare Krishna. And flowery speech and the attractive flowery speech in the Vedas. You can go to the heavenly planets and shower flowers and ride around in flower airplanes. And among the demigods were powerful personalities like Lord Brahma and Shiva, and all joined together in showing their jubilation over Kamsa's death. There was beating of drums and showering of flowers from the heavenly planets, and the wives of the demigods began to dance in ecstasy. Yeah, I remember the few times that I was there when Prabhupada was arriving, because he was traveling all over the world, and sometimes he was coming to where I was staying, a temple there, and we would always have big baskets of flowers and flower petals. And when Prabhupada arrived, we would shower flowers, like in the airport, make a huge mess with flower petals everywhere. Prabhupada came through the terminal. Hare Krishna, shower flowers. And on the way into the temple, shower flowers. And when he was leaving to go to another temple or to travel and preach, Oh, shower more flowers. And then every morning, in worshiping the spiritual master, the shower flowers. And when there's fire sacrifice, shower flowers. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 11 o'clock, he has to do it 11 times. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, there you go. Hare Krishna. The wives of Kaṁsa and 8 brothers became aggrieved on account of their husband's sudden death. I wonder who they were, those 8 brothers of Kaṁsa. They're all demons, obviously. They were crying, sudden deaths, and all of them were striking their foreheads and shedding torrents of tears. They were crying very loudly and embracing the bodies of their dead husbands. The wives of Kaṁsa and his brothers began to lament, addressing the dead bodies. Oh, dear husbands, you are so kind and are the protectors of your dependents. Now, after your death, we are also dead, along with your homes and children. We are no longer looking very auspicious. On account of your death, the auspicious functions which will take place, such as the sacrifice of the bow, have all been spoiled. Our dear husbands, you treated persons ill who are faultless, and as a result, you have been killed. This is inevitable because a person who torments an innocent person must be punished by the laws of nature. We know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Master of everything and the Supreme Enjoyer of everything, and therefore anyone who neglects his authority can never be happy, and ultimately, as you have, he meets death. Since Krishna was kind and affectionate to his aunts, he began to give them solace as far as was possible. The ritualistic ceremonies after death were then conducted under the personal supervision of Krishna, because he happened to be the nephew of all the dead princes. After finishing this business, Krishna and Balaram immediately released their father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, who had been imprisoned by Kaṁsa. Again, Krishna and Balaram fell at their parents' feet and offered them prayers. Vasudeva and Devaki had suffered so much trouble because Krishna was their son. It was because of Krishna that Kaṁsa was always giving them trouble. Devaki and Vasudeva were fully conscious of Krishna's exalted position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Krishna touched their feet and offered obeisances and prayers to them, they did not embrace him, but simply stood up to hear the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Krishna was born as their son, Vasudeva and Devaki were always conscious of his position, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, which is very different from the mood of the devotees in Vrindavan, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. So they didn't embrace Krishna. They stood up to hear him. They had an official relationship with the son. Pradyumna, also one of the sons of Krishna, he shows that, that's the end of the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 43rd chapter of Krishna, the Killing of Kaṁsa. He shows that also in that he was always very respectful to his father. He was always aware of his father as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had that formal distance to his father. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We see that dynamic play out in this movement. We know this movement is bona fide. That dynamic is playing out by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his bona fide representatives. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.